Welcome to another episode of Going For It with Becker. I'm James Becker, and in this episode, we're joined by Jake Wyer, who runs a high-performing real estate business alongside his wife in Wilmington, North Carolina. I found Jake to be highly sophisticated in his business sense. He's got this calm, centered energy. He is an absolute technician when it comes to systems and growth. In our conversation today, we highlight some fascinating insights on investing back into your business, marketing strategies, team building, and how, with a consistent routine, those efforts can absolutely compound into massive positive results. Let's get into it. Hi, Jake. Thanks for being here today.
Well, thanks for having me on, James.
I appreciate you being here. Let's start this off by finding out a little bit about you so the listeners can have some context to who you are before we start the conversation. Can you share a little bit about yourself and your business?
Fair enough. Me and my wife run a small domestic business with eXp Realty brokerage in Wilmington, North Carolina, on the coast out in North Carolina. We kind of came from a larger market from San Diego originally. Ran a team out there in San Diego as well. And we're kind of going through the growth pains of trying to come to a new market and kind of establish yourself without having any of those real connections. So that was our big milestone, I guess, is trying to establish yourself in a new market without friends and family and past clientele, things like that. So it was we raised both our children here. That was kind of the big reason to move away from the bigger market, was just to have a slower pace of life.
Right.
But you know what? We got to benefit a little bit being the bigger fish in a smaller fishbowl versus vice versa, what was San Diego felt like for us. So it's been a good move for us overall.
How long ago did you make that move?
Been out for about 11 years now.
11 years. Good for
11
you.
years. Yeah.
So when you first made a move from San Diego, and this is obviously culture shock to move to where you are now,
Yeah.
how did you establish yourself in the new area to start making connections with people and networking? How did you do that?
Well, you know what? It took a good year or two of getting out there, kind of getting into some groups, having children. Obviously, that's kind of becomes a little bit of your
Always
network.
helps.
Yeah,
Yep.
getting involved with their schools, getting involved with their sports, all of that stuff obviously helped over time. But really, coming from a larger market, we got to take a lot of that marketing that was so commonplace on the West Coast in California and bring it to a much smaller, undeveloped market. So it was almost bringing marketing that was 2 years in advance to what the area was using. So we kind of had definitely a step up as far as that's concerned. So we really leaned into YouTube early, doing kind of destination channels, things like that. People looking for new areas to live. Everybody's looking to move out of California all the time, it seems like, and relocate.
I I
Going
was
into
one of
California
those
too.
people.
Yeah. So a lot of that was
Yep.
trying to give them some place to find information and eventually find us, obviously, if they're looking to make a move. But that was kind of how we initially got our foot in the door here.
Yep. So tell me a little bit about your production. I think in 2025 you had 40 closed ends. What was the volume on that?
Uh, Geez, I knew you were going to ask me this question here. I could not even tell you what our volume was at this point. I'm sorry. I
That's
wasn't
okay.
even adding that up at the moment. But yeah, we were right around 40 plus in 25. We're looking to add about 20 to that for 26.
Okay.
So somewhere in the 60 range. And I was just telling, actually, I just had a meeting with Aaron. He's our production partner, and just reset our goals basically. So when we came on with Fusion, we had a goal that we've actually exceeded in 25 for
That's awesome.
production. Yeah, and it was one of those numbers I didn't think we were. It seemed like a fictional number to us.
Yep.
Um, and so
How
coming on with
cool is
Fusion,
that?
that was really cool. That was very cool to have that conversation. I had to let Aaron know. I said, you know what? We've hit that number and surpassed it. So we need to we need to reschedule that number. It's something
So,
that's
so that's something we call the BHAG, which is something that we got from Jim Collins
mhm.
of Good to Great, which is the big, hairy, audacious goal. So you hit your BHAG.
I hit my BHAG, which sounded fictional to me at the time. And that's what I was told to
That's
do.
great.
That's Dan Johnson was originally who we came on with, and he said,
Yep.
just something that just seems so far out there, and
Yep.
that's what you're going to shoot for. And it was like, if you fail short of that, then that's still good.
Yep.
But we surpassed it in a timeline I did not think was possible, to be honest.
Well, I mean, to me, my guess, and you can tell me, but there is a significant compounding effect that when you do things and you don't stop and you stay consistent, even when you don't feel like you're getting the results, that at some point it's like a wildfire. It's little by little, little by little, little by little, and then boom, it just starts to go. Did you had that experience yourself?
I say that all the time, and I forget which book this comes from, but it's like the bamboo sending out the roots that that they're growing underground for the last 5 years, then all of a sudden it's everywhere above ground, and
Right.
it's the consistency. I think in general, the real estate industry, that's what we suffer is those ups and downs, which obviously is we get busy and we take our foot off things that are important, like keeping in touch with our
Yep.
sphere, sending out those thank yous, sitting down, having coffee. The a lot of the human stuff that is important, like those handwritten notes that you guys send out for Fusion that I get thank yous all the time that they are amazed I took the time out of my day to write them a
Yep.
note saying congratulations on your house anniversary,
Yeah.
and it's that consistency that just gives you that level playing field and that consistency of just building your brand over the years. And we get calls all the time now from past clients that said, hey, you sold us the house 4 years ago. We've outgrown it. We're ready. Come on over and just, come over and list it.
That's the whole idea, in marketing there's four pillars, and it's actually in the business plan that we send out. I don't know if you ever read the business plan front to back, but there's four pillars. One is you have to have your offering in marketing, which what we want to suggest is the offering is that you work really hard to provide a great value, and all we want is an opportunity to interview, which is very soft and makes it easy for people to say yes. Then you have to have your targets or your reach, which we really recommend number one for it to be your sphere of influence and growing that sphere of influence, because there's already a book that's written about those people, about you actually. They have a sense that you're a good person. They've seen you. There's a trustworthiness, and so some of that marketing has already been done because they have a sense that you're a good person. But the next two things is the frequency in which they get those things, and then the different modalities. So if it's a handwritten card or a postcard or a telephone call or an invite to an event or any of those types of things, that has a huge compounding effect, particularly over 2 or 3 years. But there's so many people that they do this for 9 months, and they don't see the fruit on the trees, and they stop. And I've been using this analogy lately. My grandfather was a peach rancher, and when you have plant a new orchard, those trees aren't going to produce any fruit for 2 or 3 years.
Mhm.
And but once they get big enough to hold the fruit, for 20 years that orchard will produce an amazing crop year after year after year after year. So long as you're manicuring it, and you got to fertilize, and you got to prune the trees, and those types of things, taking care of the orchard itself. But anything that has big results comes from something that you have to wait for. And it's an absolute epidemic of delusion in our industry for people to think that there's in a quick fix. Do you find that in the people that you see and talk with around you and in your organization?
It's funny. It's funny you bring that up. We were working on building out the team a little bit. Right now, we just have one buyer's agent, myself, my wife, and a few assistants. But the plan is to bring on a few more buyer's agents on board. And I've sat down with several different newer agents and ones that have been in the industry and just haven't been producing at a very high level, looking to come on to a team and kind of change the scenery, I guess. And that conversation is constant. It's just like, I would like to be where you are. I'm like, okay, well, that's a good goal, great goal. There's several steps involved in doing that, and there's probably a little bit of time that you're gonna have to put into this business before those kind of results are gonna happen. I mean, I wasn't me when coming into the business either.
Yep.
But yeah, I think a lot of people they come in with just those unrealistic expectations of like, I want to make, mid six figures and I want to sell 50, 60, 70 properties a year. And it's like, great. And I also want to go on vacation and I also want to, all these things. And it's like, you can have all of that. You really can. It's just not going to be year one, most likely. I mean, there are those stories you hear that it does happen.
Yep.
But everybody runs with those stories, unfortunately, and nobody really wants to put in the day to day. And I think I lose more people when I'm recruiting for the team because I'm I've been doing this for so long. I've been doing this for 17 years, and that I say that's great, but consistency is really going to outstrip any kind of talent every single day. So if you
Yep.
find your thing, you stick with that thing, and you do it every single day, and you cultivate that skill, and you make sure that you're doing it every single day, you'll get the numbers. You will get the numbers and you'll get the proof, but it might not be month two, might not be month three. I'd suggest you stack away a little bit of money to for a rainy day at this point, but do open houses, do those things that make those none of it's sexy. That's the hard part with this is like
Well,
we're
that's
not
what I write in my business plan is the money is made in the boring.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. You're going to give up your Saturday and sit at an open house and meet people, and you're going to follow up
Yep.
with them, and you're going to make phone calls to the neighbors.
Yep.
And yeah, that's how millions are made in this industry.
Yep. It's in the boring. It's not in the sexy. And James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, says that you don't rise to the level of your goals. What really happens is you fall to the level of your systems. And because the realities are is you do have to be disciplined to get systems set up and to run those systems and to practice those systems. But nobody is that I know of has the ability to be absolutely disciplined every single day. And so you have to put systems in place so that you don't have to be as disciplined as you need to make sure that all of these things get done. And the systems are just critical in any business that you look at. That is, there's no business that's one person that's doing everything
Right.
itself. And so that means that there's coordination, and if there's coordination, there's systems and processes and procedures that people have to go through. And one of the challenges for our industry is that now there are people who have MBAs and there are people who are very bright, but the level of business sophistication is very, very low in our industry. And when I think about when I first came in back in the horse and buggy days, it was a long time ago.
How long ago was this? Give us a date. What's the year?
I got licensed in 1989.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So
Wow.
they had just invented the wheel back then.
Yeah, yeah.
And so the my concept of what was possible was so small. I just, if you can't see it, if you don't have a vision for it, you can't imagine how you get there. And over a period of time, I've continued to learn more and more about business. And as I learn more and more about business, I have more and more confidence in the long-term bets Whereas when I was younger, it was so hard to send out marketing and get nothing in return, and then have to send out the same marketing or something similar the week later or a month later or whatever the case may be, and nothing in return. I'm like, this isn't working. Like, and again, it's the seeds going in the ground. And it is working. It's just not working at the speed in which you want it, unless you're a direct marketer. And direct marketing is a loser's game, because as soon as there's something that works really well, other people find it, and then it becomes saturated. And then you have to find that new secret sauce of a direct marketer. And if it's working, someone else sees it, it becomes saturated, and then you have to start all over again. Whereas if you're building a brand, which is long-term marketing, as long as you don't mess it up, that brand stays. It doesn't go away. And how powerful is that? So, Jake, if you're talking to somebody who is bright and does have a good business understanding, and they're thinking about going from selling insurance or selling copiers or software, and they want to get into the real estate business, what would you share with them? What would be the advice that you would share?
One thing I wish someone had shared with me, and I did have a very good mentor who was just old school dialer Remax. He
Mike
kept
Ferry
his
kind of guy.
Mike Ferry, 100%. Yep. Trained with Mike Ferry and
That's
Tom.
how I started.
Yeah, and he was a engineer by trade before real estate, and so he was very
Yep.
numbers driven, and so you can
Yep.
calculate X amount of calls for X amount of.
Yep.
So it worked for him, and he was very very productive and till the
Yep.
day he retired.
Yep.
And he kind of taught me the consistency up early. And he said, maybe the phone calls are not always going to be your thing, they're mine. But whatever your thing is, you need to be part of that. So what he said to me was, you need to figure out who you are a little bit, because everybody comes into a business, an entrepreneurial business anyways, and they think they're a leader right off the bat. Like that's what you're told you need to be for a business, as a leader. And perhaps you don't have that dominant trait per se, but I would highly recommend you take a personality test, a very in-depth personality test, find out where your strengths really do lie, what you do enjoy. That's also just as important as what you're good at, because it's what you'll keep doing, and figure out who you are. And then over time, you can hire your other half, the pieces you're missing, and you can hire that
Your
out.
yin to your yang. Yep.
Exactly. Then you can fill in those gaps in your business, and you can be perfectly happy doing what you do and what you're doing good at. So I really wish that people would kind of realize who they are up front, and they don't necessarily need to be this dominant leader to be
Mm-hmm.
successful in this business. So
Yeah.
that's where I'd go with that.
Yeah. So when people ask you, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing this," is that what you tell them?
To figure out who they are, first I tell them that it's a business. That's first and foremost, that this is not just the golden ticket to a free lifestyle to make a high income.
To drive around in Mercedes Benz and
Exactly. This is a nine to
right.
five business, and you have to be a
Yeah.
businessman, and you have to show up for business hours plus some at the beginning. You're not really going to keep that 9 to 5, but you need at least the 9 to 5. And that needs to be the reality of it, is that you're going to be giving up 6 days a week, 9 hours, 10 hours a day to get this thing off the ground. And if that's not something you want to do, then that's understandable. I would recommend, there's all kinds of great jobs out there that don't require that. You put enough years in, you can get there, and you can basically buy your time back, I guess is probably the best way to put it. And that's our relationship and our partnership with Fusion. You guys kind of package a lot of that under one roof. We're not having to go out and scab together, a mailing company along with a social media company, along with, all these different trades that we'd have to put together. You guys kind of package it up into one, under one roof. I get a step out of it. I consider that getting my time back. Over, you get busy enough, you can buy some of your time back.
Yeah. Well, who's the guy that talks about that? Um, Martin, is it Joe Martin? There's a guy that's talking about buying. he's on the circuit. Dan something, I can't remember. But he talks about that all the time, buying your time back, because that's the only thing that you have. It's a very limited resource, and it's the most valuable resource that you have. I want to talk about a couple other things besides the marketing portion of what we do and the team building. I want to get into the buyer's agents because I want to give you some feedback on it here in a second. But I want to share with you what I tell people, just in case someone listening to this is interested. When someone says that they are thinking about getting into the business, I tell them, do not do it unless you are willing to come in and go all in, all the way, not half-time, not part-time, and that you're willing to absolutely work hard and then put your clients' needs first. And if you can build that type of relationship, and the reality is that if you can come in and work really hard for 3-4 years and get a toehold going, and you have some business sophistication, the competition is so weak. And, agents are so focused on themselves. I mean, I don't know if you see some of these videos where people are marketing homes as agents, and the videos are all about them, about being funny or whatever the case may be. And I just roll my eyes because the industry is so narcissistic. It's kind of like a mini Hollywood to a certain extent. But if you can come in and really roll up your sleeves and go to work, this can be amazing. But the other thing that's really difficult is when you come in, there is 95 different people telling you what to do, and it's really confusing. And they're all telling you different things. And so you really have to pick a really great mentor and really focus in on that one person's thoughts and ideas, I believe. And so if you're listening out there and thinking about getting in this business, great. If you're someone who's willing to really come in and dedicate yourself to it, you'll do great. But if you're, a person who does things halfway, as the saying goes, half measures avail us nothing. And so that's the advice I give. Let's talk about buyer's agents for a minute. So one of the things we do, I hope that you're aware of, is we help build teams and structures around teams here. So we help generate more business and then expand the business. One of the things that people talk about, and this is, originally came out of KW, and Gary Keller, who his Millionaire book, by the way, I would recommend to just about anywhere, to anybody. It's still very on target in today's world. I think they have updated it, but I'm not sure. But they talk about buyer's agents, and I believe that buyer's agents are detrimental to the business, the way they traditionally use buyer's agents. And so it may be semantics, but I'm going to talk about this a little bit. So in a traditional role, a agent will hire a buyer's agent. He's going to be a listing agent, and then he's going to have his buyer's agent take care of the buyers. And so, and then they get 25% or 35%, whatever that particular amount is. The problem with that is that once that person gets handed over to the buyer's agent, if the buyer's agent's any good, at the end of that transaction, the client sees the buyer's agent as their agent. And if the buyer's agent is any good, he or she is not going to stay. And so they will absolutely destroy a portion that they start to undermine the compounding effect of the clients coming in. So what we recommend is to bring on what we consider an associate agent. And it's, I call it the Beyonce backup dancers business model. And it's similar to an attorney who's a rainmaker who has potentially some paralegals or some associate agents that work with them. When they go to court, when the client first comes in, they meet with the main attorney. And then the associates may file briefs or do other types of things. But when they are making an argument or there's a negotiation happening with the other party, that main attorney is involved in that. And that's why we hire that main attorney. And when the jury comes in, that main attorney is there standing with you as that process going. At the end of that process, the person who's with that main attorney understands that they have associates that may be doing some of that work, but they know who that main person is. So we have a process that I actually ran with my partner for years, where we have it in a spreadsheet, and it's all color coded at what point things get handed off. But what we really recommend is, and I'll give you another example. If one of your buddies recommends his young daughter to buy a condo, and you give it off to the buyer's agent, and then your buddy asks, Gus, how's Jake treating you? Well, I only talked to him one time. I'm dealing with this guy, John. Are we going to get the next referral from your buddy? Good chance, maybe no, because you didn't even have time for that particular person. So I think this is really, really important. So the way that I see it is that when there's a call made, that the main agent makes a telephone call, pre-qualifies, and sets the initial meeting, buyer or listing. So then they come in, there's a buyer presentation that's done and a buyer contract that's signed, or you go to the listing and the listing is done. And you can either bring your associate with you or introduce that associate, and you explain, okay, this is what I'm doing, and I have somebody who helps me periodically on the types of things. Because when a brand new house comes on the market, it's a hot market, we got to get you in. Because if it's a good deal, there's going to be a stack of offers. Even in this market, if it's a good deal, there's going to be a stack of offers. And so we got to make sure we can get you in it. So I have someone who will show property and those types of things. But when we're negotiating the deal, I'm going to take care of that. And when we go to the closing, I'm going to come in, I'm going to look at the documents, I'm going to make sure that they're right, and I'm going to make sure that you're protected all the way through. So you're in that process, you're negotiating the deal, and that doesn't mean you have to write the contract. It just means that you call, because the agents in your area, they know you, they like you. They're going to bump your offer up to the top because they know you. I mean, your name is going to carry weight. So you go, hey, Susie, yeah, it's Jake. Hey, I got a really good buyer here. She's going to close. She's totally reliable. Okay, maybe I'll give your offer the nod, so forth and so on. And then at the closing. So at the end, that buyer or that listing person, they know who their client is. And then you have, though, the other thing is, if there's any major problems, you're stepping in to solve those problems. But what happens now is you're training this person on showing property and then dealing with the appraisers. Probably I would have an associate agent be the transaction coordinator, because you don't really need it if they're going out and signing paperwork. On the customer service thing, this is something that I don't think a lot of agents are doing now, but this is just a high level of service. I know a lot of people just DocuSign a package to people just to sign. And I know that it's really uncomfortable for people. They're signing stuff. They have no idea what they're signing. And to me, I think it's better to have somebody get on the phone or get on a Zoom or go face to face and explain, okay, this is boilerplate, no big deal, but this one's important and this one's important. And I need you to understand this one. That's just a higher level of service because I don't want to, as a client, have to read through everything. And, I bought a home here in Stewart in 21. That was the last time I purchased a property. But okay, disclosures in your box. Great. I had an agent that was here in the area, and I would have appreciated, okay, in Florida, because I didn't know anything about Florida. Like, am I in swampland here? Like, what are some of the things I need to
Yeah.
worry about?
You're the area
You
expert. Tell me
know,
a little bit.
yeah, that's exactly right. And so you won't diminish that business. But here's the other thing is if you train these associates to be your agent, and this is a really big deal. So and they don't have to be great salespeople because you can and we have a process on showing property, helping people eliminate and get out of their minds the properties that they're not going to consider. And I'll do another training on that soon. I think I've got some videos of that. But when they're driving around, they should be saying, gosh, Jake is amazing. Jake's amazing. He's the best negotiator. Like just those types of things is great PR for you,
Yeah.
which makes it easier for them to then refer other business as well. And then the other thing is if they don't have to rainmake and they don't have to be really great salespeople, they're not going to leave
Yeah.
because the great type A personality is not going to say. So then you have this revolving door. So I don't know. What do you think about that? Does that ring true for you? Do you have different opinion on it?
I don't actually. It has a couple different terms I've heard. That same style, production partner, I guess, has been one I've heard a few times.
Yep.
And it seems like a lot of the bigger teams have been that no longer want to run a big team that maybe isn't extremely profitable. It's
Yep.
just you've got a lot of numbers, you got a lot of people under you. It looks real impressive, and you're running,
Yep.
9% profit.
Yep.
It's not making a bunch of money. You probably made more money when you were in production as a solo agent. That's what I've run into that a ton.
Yep.
Um, and I think you staying forward facing and you staying, yeah, like you're saying, you become still remain the sphere of contact. They kind of become a door opener to some extent, I suppose. And you've trained someone to kind of take the boots on the ground piece of it away, but you're still the professional that's going to take care of the major items, the negotiations, where we're going to offer this. We're going to run the comparative market analysis together. I'm going to tell you what the thoughts are on structuring your offer. We'll go ahead and
Right.
figure out the areas for you. So yeah, I can see how it's going to position you in a spot where you become the forward-facing person that's going to be the next phone call. Because quite honestly, the amount of referrals that we get now and the amount of repeat clientele is probably half of our current business.
Yep.
So to get rid of
I
that,
think yeah, I think it gets diminished as soon as you have a traditional buyer's agent.
yeah, I can see that. I think that's a kind of a little bit of a dying model to some extent, especially
Yep.
unless you're a mega team that just can run off those thin margins.
Yep.
Um, I think the people that have 10 or 12 buyers agents, I don't know if that really has a future to it per se.
Well, I think those are cold lead types of things, and the flex agents that are out there are running that. But you know, I
Yeah.
I think it's really difficult to be profitable
Yeah.
in that business, and there's some you know big teams. There's one in the South. What's the guy's name? He used to be Keller Williams. Um, you would
Yes.
know the name as soon as I said
I'm
it.
sure I probably would.
Um, He has
Those
his
big
own
names, though,
brokerage
I
now.
think everybody thinks that's really like especially coming into the business. You see those people that have those huge teams, and they're winning all the awards, all the accolades, the stuff that doesn't really matter all that much. And I think
Yep.
that's you see all that, and you think you want that too. And I've run a larger team in California because I thought that was the model. And then I come to realize during tax time that my previous year as a solo agent was a much more profitable year than my current with five, six, seven, team members. And all
Yep.
your time goes to their deals and dealing with their
Yep.
fires and so
Yep.
I think
So I on our discussion here for the podcast, I don't want to get into it, but you should make sure that you're talking to Aaron about our TMX team building process because we've built that around the idea of profitability for sure. And as you become more significant in your market, it's something that you could definitely take advantage of because we're doing all of the recruiting and the screening. You just have to bring these people on, and then we're carrying all of the back end
we're
for
already
their
signed up.
promotion.
We're
Oh, you're
signed
already
up.
signed up. Okay, great. So, yeah, we're excited about that,
I'm excited
and
about it. I'm very excited. I know it's going to take a little while to build it out,
yeah,
but
we're working through a number of. There's so many details, but we're iterating every single week. And as right now, we have every day anywhere from 8 to 15 people in a webinar,
yeah.
and we're fine tuning that. And once we have that fine tuned, then we're going to really increase the numbers that we're reaching out to. So we're excited about that. Where do you think the business is going? Where do you see it in 3 years from now?
My business or the business in real estate,
The industry, the business.
the
Yep.
industry. Well, everybody says AI is going to take over and we're all losing our jobs, but I really do feel like this is a service industry. I think you gotta people trust who they trust on the biggest transactions of their lives, and I don't think that's going to
Yep.
get given away to a robot by any means. I think that's a good support system.
Yep.
I think all of us that don't lean into using those as tools is a bad idea, and I think those ones that
Yep.
lean into those tools will excel. But I think ultimately as that grows and that AI part of it grows, I think the handshake, the coffee sit downs,
Yep.
like you said, going and sitting down, going over the contract in person,
Yep.
I think that is what's going to build businesses still. And I think people are going to revert more so and gravitate more to that than they ever have, to be honest.
Yep. I wrote
So,
I wrote a white paper. I think it was a year ago on AI and where I thought the business was going. And my thesis of the white paper was that in general that AI is a psychopath, and meaning that it can act like it has feelings, it can act like it cares about you, but it doesn't. And people know that it's you know O's and ones or ones and O's and so um, it there's people want reassurance from something that has accountability, and a computer has no accountability.
yeah.
The other thing is for someone to really take care of someone, to really be connected to the best interest, you have to have true empathy. Empathy is not possible in a computer where someone is like, I have to double check and make sure things are good. So I think that level of service and that human connection becomes so much more important. And then the other thing I look at, which, I not to get into a discussion about this, but you know, the state of the country, primarily because of social media, because we're fed what we believe and it's reinforced, and we're fed how stupid the other side is in our social media, that we're just so divided. And you look at these people and you say, okay, how is two people on a unique property gonna be able to come to terms? Like, people have less ability to communicate and resolve issues than ever before, which is nuts to me.
Yeah.
And I don't see uh, it could happen with two really reasonable, sophisticated people. They could put together a deal, but that's not, that's 10% of the
Maybe.
population.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, we may be one of the ones that can withstand the onslaught of what's coming in the future. That's my hope, but I also really believe it. How's that ring for you?
I find it scary. I stay out of, I'm on social media for marketing purposes, of course, so I'm not
Yep.
completely out of it. I do stay out of most of the news channels
Yep.
because it's just so divided and it does feel force-fed for the most part to me.
Yep.
I perk right up when I hear real estate stuff or something that might involve my more local,
Yep.
politics, something that I might be able to affect in. But I do believe that, yeah, our human touch and our human negotiations and our interaction, it is a little bit scary to watch where it's currently being pushed. And I do believe it's being pushed, for certain purposes in certain directions. Profitability for, is probably the biggest reason. Um, but yeah, I think as a country, as a world, really, I think it's really important that we really learn how to realize that we are not all that different, and that we do
Amen.
need to be able to communicate.
Amen.
Um, so yeah, I do believe that more human touch is going to be what's going to pull us all out of what we currently are seeing on the social media channels. My daughter,
Yeah.
who's 9 years old, does not own a cell phone for that exact reason. We're putting in a
That's,
landline in our house. And she's going to have the
I
old
love it.
cord right there at the kitchen. So we're going
I
backwards
love it.
now.
Going old school.
Yes.
Love it. I
Yes.
love it. All right, let's finish up with one last question.
Okay.
It's about you. So tell me, what do people make assumptions about or think about you that is not true?
The biggest one I've been running into now is, especially with clientele, is that we're just too busy for them. Well, we hear that all the time. Like, I was going to call, but you seem like you're just so busy, that I went with someone who seemed less busy. And I think a lot of it with me specifically is I feel like, you are spread thin sometimes, but you really need, I'm always available for clientele, always available for family. That's, like I said, those relationships are so important to me, that everything else can kind of wait as far as I'm concerned. If you have a need, I'm right there for you. So we're trying to overcome you want to look busy in business, and it's important to seem that you are very busy.
Right.
That's because nobody wants to
Right.
hire someone that's not busy, because you're obviously
Yeah.
not good at what you do. But there's a fine line
Amen to
there.
that. Well, if you walk into a mall and on one side is a restaurant is hammering and there's a wait and there's nobody in the other restaurant, you don't go in that restaurant where
Yep.
nobody's there because
And I do the same
they.
thing. I look around, I say, well, this has got a line out the door. It must be great.
Yep, that's
Yep.
exactly right.
So that's what it
Well,
comes down to. I'm trying to find that balance of looking real busy and successful while still approachable, I guess.
Jake, I so appreciate you taking the time. It's been wonderful
It's been great.
chatting with you. I feel like I've gotten to know you better and have learned some things. And so I am very appreciative of your time and your willingness to chat with us.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having us on. It was great having a chance to sit down and actually have a sit down and a talk face to face, as face to
Yep,
face as we can be on two different coasts.
yep,
But
that's
it,
exactly right.
it was very nice.
Thanks.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.